All right, Drew, I need you to do your best. Go Tigers for me. Come on. Give me your Ed O, because we're going to have to pit two former Tigers against each other.
I can't do it, man.
Go Tigers. It is insane to think at one point both these guys were teammates, but for fantasy drafters, they are two guys that need to be decided between, as they're pretty much going back to back in terms of the wide receiver position. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. You look at Justin Jefferson's ADP right now in a PPR league, he is going number 6 overall. And when it comes to Jamar in a PPR league is going number 9. So 3 spots behind him. And we look at these guys' numbers, it's honestly insane. In just a 2-year career, 2 years alone, over 3,000 receiving yards for Justin Jefferson. And then you look at Jamar. Jamar has 13 touchdowns in his rookie season. 13 touchdowns. So you think about the Mac Jones Offensive Player of the Year today. Jamar made a great case. Jamar definitely put up a good bid for it. Now, we kind of looked at some of these numbers, some of these game logs, and if you're sitting there with the number 6 pick or somewhere in that range, and these guys are both on the board, what are you doing, Drew?
Give me Justin Jefferson, but it is not by much.
Yeah, you know what? I think I agree with you. And here's why I think I'll agree with you. Kirk Cousins, even though he becomes the butt of a lot of jokes, is one of the more consistent quarterbacks in the league, and he knows how to distribute the ball to his guys, and he's distributed that ball well to Justin Jefferson throughout his career. He's done the same thing when it came to Stephon Diggs. He did the same thing when it came to Adam Thielen. So I trust Kirk Cousins to remain consistently Kirk Cousins. When it comes to Joe, obviously fantastic sophomore year, and I am one of the biggest Joe Burrow fan club drivers. But still, he did have his rookie year. He had the ACL tear, and coming back the sophomore year, there was a little bit of inconsistencies that kind of flew under the radar in the run to the Super Bowl, particularly when it came to Jamar Chase. So Jamar, aside from that blow-up game against Kansas City, really didn't have a great end of the year last year. He also had a 20-point game against San Francisco. Meanwhile, Justin Jefferson pretty much just kept chugging along with 10-point, 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 5-point performances along the way, which if you stay consistent enough, you keep the floor high, that's going to help you win a lot of games in fantasy football.
Jamar Chase was great through the first 9 or 10 weeks of the season. It seemed like he was scoring every week. And then he just had the blow-up games after that. The other 9 games to finish the season outside of San Francisco and Kansas City, he only had 1 touchdown in those 9 games. And yes, he was still getting his receptions and his yards outside of the Denver game where he had 1 catch for 3. But he really slowed down, and that's the difference maker to me.
I feel like Jefferson is a guaranteed 100 reception guy, whereas Chase, a lot of his value came off the fact that, he ended up in the end zone a lot. 13 touchdowns is a game changer. And unfortunately for year-to-year fantasy performance, it's a little bit of fluky stat, or at least fluky in determining how good a player is going to be the next year. Not to say that Jamar isn't going to be damn good, but to say that when we talk about the elite tier of the wide receiver position, and you're drafting these guys to be elite, to stand out amongst their peers when you're drafting them in the first round, you kind of want to guarantee. And you never want to say anyone's a true guarantee, because there's no guarantees. There's certainly no guarantees in this dark world that we call fantasy football. But it feels like Justin Jefferson is one of those guys. He feels like I could count on my 10 to 15 points each week. Whereas, yes, Jamar can get me that 44-point game against Kansas City, but I can also see that 1 catch game too.
Yeah. I think that, to be real honest, I think Justin Jefferson is closer to Cooper Kupp than he is to Jamar Chase. I think that Justin Jefferson could very well finish as the wide receiver 1 this season, even if Cooper Kupp stays healthy all year.
And I think that's actually a great point there. That is a fantastic point. When you're drafting a wide receiver in the first round, you're drafting them with the intention of being the wide receiver 1 by the end of the season, right?
Absolutely.
So Justin Jefferson, if you feel more confident that he could end up as the number 1 overall fantasy wide receiver, then you take that chance over Jamar Chase. And again, Jamar's going to be a wide receiver 1. They're both going to be in that range. But who's going to be a top 5? Who's going to be a top 3 overall at the position? It feels like,
Justin
again,
Jefferson.
put him in Sharpie. He's there.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it. And
he's a safer bet.
Yeah. I mean, just year to year. Plus, too, the fact that we have 2 years of production to lean back on versus Jamar, where we still just have the 1, and it was a fantastic 1-year stretch. But 2 years, we saw that Justin Jefferson, he holds up. Kirk Cousins looks for him. 7 touchdowns seems to be the floor. Maybe he takes another step up as Adam Thielen continues to age and decline in the offense. And maybe there's other faces to pop up in Minnesota. They've tried to improve that offensive line. I don't know if they've done a great job necessarily. The one thing I will say also pro Jamar Chase, Cincinnati did improve their offensive line. They absolutely went out there with one mission this offseason, saying we will protect Joe Burrow. And if he has more time in the pocket to think about and contemplate where he's going to place the football, that could be scary for a lot of NFL defenses this year.
That's very scary when you've got Jamar Chase, a guy who can take the top off a defense like nobody else.
Because I also think that Joe Burrow, his ceiling is a lot higher than Kirk Cousins' ceiling. Hell, look at the fact he was in the Super Bowl, essentially what felt like his rookie year. So,
Kirk Cousins is elite at one thing, and that is making wide receivers have great fantasy seasons.
And we love you for it. We love you for it, big guy. Thank you, Kirk Cousins. First Cousins, or make you at least first in your fantasy football league. From Ju-Ju Talk Sports, from Andrew Hohman, we want you to like this video, but we also want you to comment below. Who are you drafting between the two? Which Tiger are you targeting this year in fantasy football? Drop that below, guys. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff, yada, yada, yada. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you next time.